to the technical team. So thanks, everyone. Did you like the night? How was it? They say there are two categories of people who heard that and those who did not hear. But anyway, hopefully we are all healthy and okay. We have that on a nightly basis all over the territory of Ukraine. And what really surprises me, impresses me, and for years now, that we get used to that somehow. However, life is ongoing and we move on, so I would like to express gratitude for your rejoining for the second day of the summit. And well, now there are a bit fewer of us, so please move closer, take closer rows, seats, so that, everyone were closer. Our speakers will find it then much easier to work. And first, before I announce the next panel discussion, I would like to invite. Let's do some warm-up. Yeah, I invite Bogdan Ferenc, and he's going to suggest some warm-up exercise. Are we going to do that or what? Okay, what kind of warm-up do you do in the morning? And my friend came to me, approached me, and he said, I had my warm-up, I was in the bus stop in the morning. But that was a good idea, and let's also do some kind of warm-up exercise. You don't even need to stand up, that's very convenient, and I love it. I like massages, so let's raise right hand, right arm. That's going to be a bit of a challenge, but try to do your best, so unanimous, right? And now we put the arm on the left shoulder of the person next to you. The shoulder. Then the left shoulder, even if you don't know that person. Okay, so you've done that, and let's massage a little bit, a bit of massaging. That's right, okay? That's right. Can go harder. Let's do that a bit more. You can squeeze a little bit. That gives better moods. Now your left arm. And we do it the other way around. Now you can take a revenge on that guy. On the chairs with the coordinators, and so we are going to start.
Hello friends, I'm Esther Lynch, the General Secretary of the European Trade Union Confederation. And on behalf of the 45 million workers we represent across Europe, I want to send you a message of solidarity to everyone gathered at this important progressive summit. To our Ukrainian sisters and brothers, and to everyone who shares the vision of a democratic and fair future for Ukraine. We stand with you for peace, for freedom, and for a recovery built on justice for working people. Your struggle is our struggle, because Europe's future will only be strong if it's also fair. As Ukraine moves closer to the European Union, our message is clear. EU enlargement must strengthen, not weaken, the European social model. Accession isn't about markets, it's about values. And at the heart of those values lie strong social dialogue, workers' rights and democracy at work. Trade unionism. This means fair wages, the right to organise, to bargain collectively and to strike, not as privileges, but as essential freedoms that define Europe. The same standards that protect workers in Brussels or Berlin must protect workers in Kyiv, in Kharkiv and Odessa too. The ETUC is calling for a social progress protocol, a guarantee that social rights always come before market freedoms, and for a quality jobs roadmap. that includes legislation, investment and action programmes that ensure high-quality jobs across all sectors and all regions. Ukraine's path to membership must fully integrate these principles, ensuring that every step towards the EU is also a step towards fairness and dignity for working people. The path to EU membership must also mean that reconstruction delivers social justice. Ukraine's reconstruction is not just about bridges and power plants, it's also about rebuilding lives, rebuilding communities, making sure that workers can succeed. And it's about rebuilding trust in democracy. Public money must create decent jobs, quality jobs, not just quick profits. Every euro and every project must come with social conditionalities, good working conditions, respect for collective agreements, and union rights in the workplace. There can be no blank cheques for investors who ignore workers' rights. Reconstruction must not be a pretext for deregulation or a smaller public sector. It must be a chance to build a fairer, stronger, more inclusive Ukraine, one that protects workers, invests in public services, and ensures that no worker, no community is left out. And trade unions must be at the table, shaping recovery plans, overseeing implementation, and ensuring that Europe's solidarity truly benefits working people in Ukraine. The war has tested the resilience of Ukraine trade union movement, and I'm so proud of our affiliates, our 2 affiliates in Ukraine, who every day prove the value and relevance of trade unions. FPU and KVPU have stood strong. Their courage in defending workers under fire inspires our whole European Union Labour family. Now, as Ukraine rebuilds, we must rebuild union power too. Restore full rights to organise, to bargain, to strike, and to manage our own trade union assets, our own properties. The government must genuinely recognise trade unions as indispensable partners in the reconstruction and reform. The ETUC will continue to work side by side with FPU and KVPU, providing solidarity, capacity building, information, and a strong voice in Brussels and beyond, because a fair Ukraine cannot exist without strong, independent trade unions. Friends, Ukraine's path to the European Union is also a test for the EU, a test of whether the EU truly puts people before profits. The ETUC stands ready to help make that vision real. Together we can ensure enlargement brings peace, democracy and quality jobs for all. From Brussels to Kyiv, from Lisbon to Lviv, we are one labour movement, and together we will build a future based on justice, solidarity and hope, a real future for working people, their families and communities. Thank you.
So, colleagues, good morning again. And you know, it's so great that we started this panel discussion with Esther Lynch-Address. She's Secretary General of the European Confederation of Trade Unions, because when we speak about where our trade unions are now, basically in 2023, trade unions in the framework of European integration made the first step. The Confederation of Trade Unions of Ukraine became members of the large European trade union family. Secondly, it's important that today we start the day with this important discussion, panel discussion on us, basically, because what's trade unions? What's decent labor? This is not for someone else to resolve. This is our life. This is our jobs, our working hours, and to the extent that we understand that and we stipulate our demands, well, that will impact what kind of world and country we are living in.
Ukraine is going through a very special moment today. Our defenders are protecting our freedom at the front line, and our employees, workers, are shaping our today and our tomorrow. So I would like you to give a round of applause to all of the workers of Ukraine that are holding the line wherever they work. Thank you. Over to Yannick.
Hello, everyone. My name is Yannick Pollet. I'm Deputy Secretary General of the Party of European Socialists, and I'm extremely happy to be with you today for this important conference. I think that it's a starting point. It's certainly not the last time that we will meet. For us, it's a beginning. And it's a continuation of the support, the unwavering support that we express for many years now for Ukraine with solidarity. And for all of us, it's a bit of an emotional moment to be here. And we really would like to again express our respects for the resilience of the Ukrainian people and to tell you that we will support you in this very important historical moment for Ukraine, for the future of Ukraine, for independence of Ukraine, and of course for the accession of Ukraine to the EU. It's a commitment that we have done, that we will continue to do, to work for that. And I'm very glad that for this panel we have started with an introduction from Esther Lynch, the General Secretary of the European Trade Union Confederation, because as a PES, Party European Socialist, and the S&D group and the PES group in the Committee of the Region, we work a lot with our national trade union to improve the life of workers at the national level, but also at the European level, because at the EU level, there can be many directives, so EU laws that can be taken, and with ETUC, we have done that over the last years in order to improve the life of millions of European workers, because the European project is a project of peace, but it's also of solidarity and improvement of the living conditions of all EU citizens. And the fight that we do hand in hand with the trade union are so important. That's why it's a very big pleasure to have Esther with us through this message and to have the discussion with our colleagues here in Ukraine. I just want to finalize before we kick off the discussion to say that yesterday we had many speakers taking the floor about Ukrainian accession to the EU, saying that it's a way to improve life in Ukraine, to improve life of citizens. And in this regard, the question of living in dignity, in fairness, it's so important. And that's why to have this discussion now about trade unions, workers' rights, qualified jobs, well-paid jobs is so important, because what we want is that we want to have, and that's a very important discussion at the EU level, an upgrade for everyone. So we don't want to have a downward competition. We want to have every workers and citizens to have an upgrade in their living condition and in their wages and working conditions. So very glad to be here with you. And thank you again, Ivanka, to moderate together this panel. And you go ahead with the first question for speakers. No, it's me, sorry. No. It's me. No, I was a bit confused. We did that. So first question would be to Mr. Vasil Andreev, who is the deputy head of the Federation of Trade Union of Ukraine, also very active in the construction sector, if I understood well. So we will ask general question to all the speakers, but if you can tell us in a nutshell what is the priority for you, for your trade union, for your fight here in Ukraine, and what are the priorities that you think should be developed in the coming months to improve the life of workers and citizens here in Ukraine.
Thank you very much, and good morning to our moderators as well as to the entire audience. I understood that I speak English, but I will switch to our Ukrainian in honor and the respect to my language. Шановні колеги,
Dear colleagues, good morning to all of you, to our moderators, to the audience that have gathered here on Saturday to discuss the major issues facing Ukrainian laborers. And when we speak about progressive and European integration, the trade unions are important. We are facing huge challenges, all of our citizens, most of whom are workers, employees. And armed aggression is problem number one. We are woken by the shelling, and sometimes we run the risk of never getting up, because for half a day you cannot stay in the shelter. Most of the people have come to live with those risks, with those threats, and they have got accustomed to this condition. But this is a mental trauma, and it affects the working life of people who come to work, and they forget to fight for their labor rights because of all of the threats that they come across every day. And it is very difficult to discuss with such people safety and security of their jobs, of their working conditions, because the level of the risk tolerance is too high. And there are issues with employment. We have lost 6 million people who moved to Europe. Decisions have to be made, and we regular citizens might disagree with that, but that's what we have to do. And many of our colleagues would not agree with such developments, even though European optimism is what we all witness in this country. The idea that we have to make some sacrifices, that we might reduce our comforts, and we have to pay more for the accession, and we have to agree to some deterioration in our working conditions. So we have to make do with that. And to us, European integration is important, and when we, trade unions, negotiate with the government the nature of the reforms and the pace of the reforms, we see that balanced decisions in reforms lean more to the freedom of businesses, to less regulation, to less labor rights, to the reduction of the opportunities for the trade unions in the labor market, because sometimes people say it's not up to date, it's something that we inherited from the Soviet Union, it is something that does not align with the modern labor market. Yesterday, at the cement works in Donetsk, in Vinnytsia Oblast, we discussed the outcomes of this summit, of the first day of this summit. And it pleases me that people are not indifferent. They would like to hear about progressive ideas about our accession to the EU, opportunities for the political representation, including for the trade union members. And that's what we focus our mobilization campaign on, for reforms to focus on human beings, for reforms to be human-centric, for Ukraine to become better, fairer, and more supportive of the citizens of Ukraine. Thank you yet again for being with us in this challenge, and I'm sure that after the war you would come to Ukraine again and you would not recognize it, because it will be a sunny and happy country that would serve as an example to the whole region. Thank you very much. Thank you, Vasil, for the prospects that you've described. And with us we have Markus Kupinen. He is a parliament member of Sweden. What's the prospect of Sweden? What are the topical issues in your country when it comes to protecting labor rights?
First of all, I'd like to start by expressing my deep admiration for the resilience of the Ukrainian people. the commitment of the workers who have kept the country running under fire. Sweden stands in unwavering solidarity with you. Hold on. As a social democrat, I view the union political collaboration as the foundation for a just society. One of the most critical steps for Ukraine on the path to the EU is strengthening the social dialogue. This means giving trade unions as the second social partner a genuine and equal voice at the table, both nationally and locally. The right to sit at the negotiation table has defined our Nordic success. Sweden and the Nordic countries can contribute expertise and resources to build up trade union capacity, especially concerning negotiation techniques, organizing, and running independent operation. I want to stress the willingness of the Swedish trade union movement to support this work, all facilitated by Olof Palme Center. This collaboration is a direct investment in Ukraine's democratic future.
So, many thanks, Marcus. Якщо я можу додати, сьогодні...
If I could add, today, Swedish trade unions provide support to Ukrainian trade unions. My trade union and trade union of our colleague Vasil here have got a very extensive, almost 20-year-long experience of collaborating with the Swedish trade unions. We are learning from them how to work on the grassroots level to engage employees, to communicate challenges in the workplaces and how to address those challenges.
Thank you, Magnus. Now I'm turning to Olesia Briazgunova, that is the international coordinator of the Confederation of Trade Union of Ukraine. Thanks for joining us today. And it has been said that trade unions are really a driving factor for social justice, social fairness in the country. So can you tell us what are the priorities from your side in order to improve the life here of workers and citizens?
Thank you for the question. Дуже дякую за
Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me. I represent the Confederation of Free Trade Unions of Ukraine. It's the second most representative union in Ukraine. We are younger because we were created back in early 1990s. Our employees are resilient. They work under shelling, under fire. They cannot always go to the shelters. We have colleagues here, in particular Alexander from the Free Trade Union of the Railway Workers. And
у потяг. І машиністи не змогли вийти з цього потягу одразу, тому що це потяг. Так само з 5 на 6 листопада була безпрецедентна...
And the engine drivers could not leave the engine, and that was an unprecedented incident when 2,595 miners had to stay underground for 8 hours. So our main priority is people ensuring their safety and security to the best extent possible. Our employees have got very successful experience of negotiating with the employers to ensure better labor conditions, but we also face a lot of challenges. We, as trade unions, provide humanitarian aid thanks to our partners, and we provide such services as mental health counseling, psychological counseling, to try to alleviate this stress. particularly at the working place, because many of our employees are worried for their children who are in kindergarten or schools during shellings. They are worried about their nearest and dearest who defend them at the front line. So thanks to the ILO and our Danish partners, we opened up hubs for psychological counseling. Our second priority in order to ensure social fairness and reconstruction would be improved legislation. Our trade union for our number of years now has been fighting against the so-called negative provisions of the labor code. Now we've got good news from our chairperson, Mikhailo Volynets, who is also the member of parliament, that the draft labor code would not be approved by parliament today because trade unions raised their voice against the regressive provisions that make the labor rights worse compared to what they are today. So in particular, we discussed this with our colleagues from the European Confederation of Trade Unions, and we are thankful to Esther Lynch, who wrote letters to the government here in Ukraine and to parliamentary speaker. So we've got this social dialogue, I would say, at the European level. Our partners are providing support to all of us, and we should be...
Let me answer this question, but let me start with something else. Thanks to my colleague for the recognition of our work, because we do collaborate there and we do a lot of things together. But I would like to mention something else to start with. There are a lot of complaints about trade unions, but let's look how they turn out to be mobile, flexible. Our country is in the European integration process, but I start with words of gratitude to the international trade unionism and for the support that is being provided for Ukraine. On a daily basis, we receive dozens of complaints about that. Well, you know, after every nightly attack, there is some damage. Often that's about damage of houses of members of our trade union, of educators, about injuries. And several days after the situations, our trade union tries to provide some financial support. But of course, we could not do that with our budget, so we have a lot of support from our partners. And what's most important, everybody understands that the higher someone's education, the better one's education, the more competitive the person is in the labor market. And the trade union is doing the best in order to teach our young people to make them competitive in the labor market. But what's the remuneration of teachers? This is the lowest remuneration wage level among all sectors of the economy. You mentioned that the deficit is 24,000, now it is 26,000 already, because imagine a young teacher having MA who would agree to work for this ridiculous salary. So due to our partners and with the support of the German trade union in the sector of education, with the support of the Ministry of Economy of Germany, we are implementing a joint project to try and give an impetus to the situation, to make the society speak about that we have this huge problem in the education sector, because with our own capacities we cannot do that, because when cities discuss their budgets, you cannot just take and allocate additionally dozens of billions for education. You can increase the budget a little bit, but not to the extent as it is needed. And as the budget resolution for the next year was submitted to the Verkhovna Rada, we organized the first forum to discuss how critical it is to improve the situation. We had 4 deputy ministers at that meeting, and there was also the educational ombudsperson, some MPs. We invited professors, influential people, and we did not complain about each other. We understand that the country is at war and there is shortage of funds, but we had a comprehensive discussion, and we agreed how we are going to look for solutions. There is a lot of support from our international colleagues, and you know that now problem of the education sector is is discussed at the political level. The head of parliamentary committee, the prime minister, gave the respective orders, and we submitted the motions to the cabinet, whereas they prepared the draft budget law for the second reading. So currently we have the declared promise to increase the salary by 50% next year, the salaries. But, well, we are a trade union, and we cannot stop, right? We need to aspire for the better. So my first question is this: plus 50%, is it December versus December, or the 1st of January versus December? Because actually, in that case, it will be either 50% increase or 41%. If we want to make it 50, in the second reading, we need to add to education sector 17 billion hryvnias, and our estimations coincide with those of the Ministry of Education and Science and with the Ministry of Finance. So our task now is to work with MPs where we have any contacts, and we need to make sure, because the budget law has already been submitted to the parliament, so this is the decision of the parliament now, so we need to find this 17 billion, because otherwise there will be no 50% increase as it has been declared. But as I mentioned when I meet international partners, well, I mean, if in your sector the increase were 50%, that would be great. But for Ukraine, it is not sufficient, because the baseline level is so low that even increasing the salary by 50%, it doesn't resolve the issue. That's a huge problem. And again, I go back to support from international organizations. The president of International Organization of Education submitted the request to the Ukrainian president to consider this issue, and the American AFT organization submitted this addresses to the president via diplomatic channels, as well as other organizations, to support this increase in salaries of educators. That's the UK, America, Australia, Japan, South Korea, and other representatives of other countries. They have submitted these requests. That's important. That's about putting pressure on the authorities for them to realize that they need to pay special attention to the education sector. This kind of fora and meetings make it possible to remove barriers, because we understand the system of distribution of workload and remuneration in various countries. They are different, and if we apply a superficial approach, you know, sometimes they say our education sector is fine. But if you dig deeper, we see that our teachers are overstretched because we don't have teacher aides, right? So abroad, there is a teacher aide, and they work in the class. But for us, it's just teacher.
And this is also an issue when, say, they have 20 hours per week of work and we've got 18. It's incomparable. So another thing that pleases and inspires me is that the draft budget spells the commitment of the government to reconsider the allocation so that the teachers have 3 minimum subsistence levels wages as provided for by the law. So when we speak about raising salaries of the educators, they say the entire scheme of calculating your salaries is fairly complex. So you know that all the laws that regulate the calculation of salaries to teachers were adopted after 2017. Article 61 that describes the basic salary was adopted in 2017. Article 24 that describes the surcharges was adopted much later. And I don't think that we have to reform the entire scheme of calculating salaries, but we have to look at where the gaps are, where the challenges are, and then we will change the entire scheme. I don't like the word reform when it comes to the remuneration for teachers. I like the word improvement, because we have been reforming our education system for a very long time, and that does not encourage teachers to work with high quality. So we have to support the teachers. We have to encourage them to improve professionally. Quite recently, a regulation was adopted, and last year when I was speaking at a session like this, I was telling the audience about our agreement with the ministry and how to improve the approaches to attestation of teachers. And now the new regulation will make it worse. So we will be speaking about the regular time from time attestation of teachers, and now we, the trade unions, have to step up in the negotiations with the ministry. And I would like you to know about our work, about the effort that we put into improving the labor rights of teachers, and we do what we are supposed to do with dignity. Thank you very much.
For your passionate advocacy of educators and teachers all over the country that we support, of course. Now I'm turning to our last speaker, Yulia Yoshenko, a senior lecturer in political economy in the University of Greenwich. So if you can tell us, with this ongoing war, the effect on the Ukrainian economy, and what would be your short and medium and long-term perspective or vision or proposal for the future of the Ukrainian economy. Thank you.
Дякую.
Thank you very much. I would follow suit of other speakers here, and I'll speak in Ukrainian. We face a lot of challenges in the Ukrainian economy. Since this panel is dedicated to labor rights and the role of trade unions, I will be speaking from exactly this angle. I will be speaking about macroeconomic issues, focusing on labor rights. We've just heard from all the participants of this panel about huge issues with the working conditions and remuneration to employees. And one of the positive developments that we've observed of late would be just the supplemented amount to the basic salary. I will be speaking about how we can ensure the rights and safeguarding those rights in Ukraine, both during the war and in the post-war period. Some of the matters are difficult to address, particularly under the shelling. There are financial restrictions and there are economic hardships, but there are urgent matters that we have to address, and those include the matter of salaries in different spheres. So I would like to start with labor legislation. So we've heard from Olesa that labor legislation has got lots of gaps and loopholes, and during the wartime, some of the labor rights have to be limited, and that's quite understandable. But that should not be initiated by the employer, but be agreed to by the employees. Because the state is all about human beings. The market is about relations, economic relations amongst people. So when the government argues that economy matters, I will say it does, but people also matter. And if their rights are not protected in their workplace, then they will suffer in their households, in their families. And then the question is, who will benefit from such an approach when people's rights are not in the center of the government's attention? So labor rights should be guaranteed by legislation, and these rights should be enforceable. The government should guarantee that the laws are enforced properly, and the employers should follow the law, should make sure that businesses are part of the tripartite negotiation processes. All of the three parties of that dialogue should have their well-defined functions, and those functions should be also well described in labor law. But when the government says that we will be supporting entrepreneurs and businesses, but the employees should actually bear with us and should be patient and should suffer, that's not what we expect from the government. When the ministry says that we should be very strict with trade unions and their property. So that's not about democracy, but about autocracy, because it's up to the employees to decide what should happen to the trade unions and how trade unions should improve their work. The government should ensure this tripartite dialogue, but not interfere with the operation of trade unions. So whenever we hear from the ministers that we should have a showdown with the trade unions, we should stand up, and we cannot tolerate such an approach. We are not Russia, we are Ukraine. I would like to thank my colleague for providing the stats. The trade union members are dissatisfied with the situation under which trade unions cannot be effective and efficient if they are passive in their attitudes. And we also saw from the surveys that passive attitude paralyzes the trade unions, undermines their efficiency. And I would like to underscore that trade unions should be more proactive in engaging young people. It is essential, first, to make sure that the society at large appreciates the function and the role of the trade unions as advocates for the working people. In the Soviet times, the trade unions were part of the ruling circles, and they never cared about the employees. But the society members sometimes skeptical in their attitude to the trade unions because of this inherited history of trade unions. If we are members of the trade union and we are not satisfied with the way it operates, we should be proactive. We should be participating in negotiations. We should participate in the management bodies of trade unions ourselves. So without our contribution, the trade unions will never be effective and efficient. I understand it is challenging. I understand that's additional burden, but we have to allocate our own effort and time to it. So we have to be very active, and we have to be part of the society in which we would like to live. We should shoulder the responsibility and perform our functions without waiting for somebody else to give us something. We do have good laws, then we have to demand that those laws are properly enforced. If we need amendments to the legislation, so we should advocate for such amendments. And during the wartime, it is difficult to make sure that working conditions are improved, but we should persevere in our demands within the resources available to the employers. When it comes to raising salaries, it's not that the government cannot afford raising salaries to teachers. We are sure that the government cannot afford not to increase salaries to teachers. My colleagues and I, in the institution where I work, do macroeconomic modeling, and we see how economy can grow thanks to increased salaries. If we can raise salaries to the medical professionals, to teachers, then they would not actually siphon this money to offshores, but they would be paying taxes, they would be consuming inside the countries, and thus they give a huge boost to the economy. It should not be seen as expenditures, but rather as the contribution to the economy. And the last thing that I would like to say is a progressive taxation. Those who get more should pay more, particularly in the key sectors. So the government should not encourage the oligarchs to increase their profits, but rather support the employees. So now there's only one factory that produces insulin is operational. But imagine we can purchase that in the market rather than manufacture it ourselves. It is all about the role of the government, potential and realistic. For the government to play its role of the arbitrator between the employers and employees and support the most vulnerable categories of the population, we have to ensure that economy grows, and this growth can be achieved through raised salaries to the public sector employees and through supporting the vulnerable categories of the population, through building social housing for the vulnerable groups of the population. It shouldn't be about mortgages, but through social housing to the vulnerable categories of the population. So when it comes to post-war recovery and rebuilding, after the Second World War, the main driver of the economy was housing construction. So we should follow suit. We should learn from the historic experience. Ukraine has got a huge sovereign debt, and it is truly a huge issue because a large part of our national budget goes to service the debt. But why is it so? We are now being hit by Russia, and we have to pay the sovereign debt for being hit by the Russian bombs. That's what I can't understand. So we should freeze the servicing of the sovereign debt, and we should require that this debt is written off. And the problem is not only finance, it's about the autonomy in decision-making by the government, by the parliament, and it is paralyzed by Ukraine's sovereign debt. We are financially subordinated to the international financial institutions who dictate us to support businesses rather than hospitals and social sphere. And we should demand that these debts are written off. So this debt should be relieved for Ukraine. And trade unions, progressive political forces, local self-governments, politicians should create a state that our defenders are being protecting at the front line. And looking at you all, those who represent wonderful organizations of millions of people who aspire to have a better country, I'm sure that it is an achievable goal. The free country for everyone. Thank you.
Дуже дякуємо, пані Юля. Ви знаєте, пані Юля.
Thank you, Yulia. Yulia says that trade unions should be a tool to actually arm the working people together with the labor contract so that we can move our agenda ahead. And now I will invite the audience to ask questions or to make comments.
Interesting discussion. I sign up behind everything that. What will you say to that? Thank you.
Будь ласка.
Maybe we can take a few questions first. Then we have one answer from the panelists, because we are running a bit of time. So I would say a few more questions and then one answer. You pick your question. You have a brief reply.
Давайте ще. Прошу.
Yes, let's go ahead. Igor Tikovenko, co-founder of the Party of the People of Labor, Narodovladia. Until 2015, I was the leader of several independent trade unions. So now we are at the front line, unfortunately retreating slowly, but also we are retreating in the field of labor relations. There is a lot of pressure of neoliberal, libertarian sometimes reforms of the authorities, and I believe that for everyone here it is obvious, especially for Western colleagues, that this only can be changed by representation of people of labor, above all in the parliament. So my question goes to Ukrainian colleagues. What's your vision? Hopefully Ukraine will survive this war against Russian imperialism. So political representation of people of labor in the future parliament.
Ladies.
Yes.
Above all, I'm grateful for this sincere and open dialogue, and I know that trade unions on a daily basis conduct bargaining, negotiations to settle some challenging issues. That's an important part of your work. And of course, that's not just your work, that's your mission. Thank you for doing that. I am co-author and trainer of a training course to train the trade union representatives for bargaining, collective bargaining. That's an initiative that was launched last year. And this year, with the ILO initiative, for the first time in Ukraine, they trained labor mediation experts. These are the first important steps that Ukraine has undertaken, so I have several questions there, above all to Ukrainian colleagues. So do you believe that this professional training for your members of trade union organizations on conflict management, bargaining, mediation, is that relevant? Do you have demand for that? And whether you really need that in this situation where you have this challenging negotiations in the war period, and it may be even more challenging post-war.
We have a similar experience in training trade union professionals in negotiation and conflict management skills. What is the role of labor mediation play in the work of your unions? And which kind of challenges did you have in this past, and how did you overcome that? Thanks.
Hello, I am Victoria. I work on protection of women's rights. In that context, I have this question: how do trade unions protect women's rights in the jobs? And, well, gender equality, maybe you know about some cases when these activities were implemented, I mean, with the focus on protection of women. Thank you for your questions, and I believe that we can proceed with our speakers' responses. So who would like to respond to that?
Насправді багато є чого.
Yeah, I have a lot of comments to each of those questions. So thank you. You highlight some important topics, but let me briefly summarize and reflect on that, focusing on the work of our NGO, Progressive. Development and work with young people, and what you mentioned about what's next, what should be political representation of trade unions, and negotiations, bargaining, and conflict resolution. One of important missions is communicating and training, teaching. I believe that quite often we hear complaints about trade unions because they are not actively engaged in the processes. They don't quite understand how these processes are organized. So yes, of course, we need to continue training, explaining that you have these opportunities, you can go there, you can do this or that, and in this way you can be visible. So Progressive, our NGO, is already doing the following. This year, in 2025, we launched the initiative of Mentorship Academy. We launched it in summer. We train people for the sake of democracy. We invited representatives of different levels of education system, and we organized training on European values, democracy, participation, youth engagement, for them to understand how they can influence the situation at the grassroots level in local communities. Then they went back home, and we already see some results. They also organize awareness-raising campaigns and activities. They talk to youth, to their peers, and where you have information, you can manage. So where people understand how various tools work, we will see active political engagement and maybe some processes that will impact conflict resolution, and how we are going to move on. So far, this initiative has been only implemented in the southern part of Ukraine, but together with UNICEF, we have launched a new project, and this is focused on compensating for losses in the field of education. So we focus on increasing on professional training of teachers. We analyze curricula, we try to make them better, and we notice that often they are not in line with current challenges, with modern challenges. And there is a new legislative framework, there are war challenges, people are often not informed, and the obsolete approach results in that we don't see the motivation to study in a quality way and to develop, to empower youth. Leadership, mentorship, that's the new challenges that we need to raise awareness around. So these small initiatives may result in very positive outcome. The main thing is that there is support, understanding, and engagement of as many people as possible, educators, young people. And by the way, doctors are trained, managers are trained. Without education and training, we won't have quality Ukraine, quality country in the future. Anyone else? If possible, very briefly.
I'd like to answer the first question regarding unemployment. And I don't think it is that much
even about the unemployment rate, but more about how willing and able the society is to answer the situation if someone gets unemployment. For example, in Finland, the employment rate has been relatively high until the current government got into force. They have reduced labor rights. They have been constantly saying that labor market should be more liberal instead of having this so-called outdated workers' rights. They have cut social benefits. And the ending is the current situation where in the first time ever, homelessness, for example, is increasing in Finland. And therefore, I'd like to answer to you that I think that the progressive point of view should be how to create such a society that you have strong trade unions, you have strong legislation that prevents from, for example, discrimination when a woman is pregnant. And at the same time, you need such a social security. And I'd say that when rebuilding society in Ukraine, for example, social housing will be one thing I'd love to see happening in some kind of form, because that is one big lesson we learned after the Second World War. We created a new institution that helped people that were displaced internally to find new homes, because that was the main factor that made it even possible to go to work, that you have a roof above you. So my answer is that by improving social security, I think it's the best way to reduce unemployment rate.
Будь ласка, друзі, далі.
Let's move on.
Since you addressed also Sweden with the high unemployment, we have the Social Democrat is not in the government for the last 3 years. It's a conservative government that has prioritized tax cuts instead of investing in infrastructure and so on. And if you do tax cuts, then you don't have enough money to pay so much nurses and so in the public sector, and the private sector can't do the work for the investments that we should have made in roads, railroads, and so on. So we will change that. There's election next year, and we will win.
Я, може, тоді пару слів.
Maybe let me say a couple of words about political representation and women's rights and training the negotiators. Political representation, this is very relevant topic. Of course, we cannot avoid that. Now we see that the representation level is almost zero. I'm not speaking about Mikhailo, but it is close to zero. So, and we, together with the progressive, we developed that. For example, there is this problem, hundreds of houses destroyed, a camp for IDPs, displaced people. It's problematic to find those who are ready to rebuild these houses in one of the villages of Chernihiv region. There are millions of European investments, but it doesn't work. So eventually it started being efficient when we ensured the political representation of the Progressilnie, and there is the Dutch donor. We train the workers, we control the employers so that they pay decent salary for decent work, qualified work of those trained people, and eventually it started working. So we help to connect all the dots, the donors, the organization Open to Ukraine. We have representatives here, and yesterday there was the manager of the organization with us. So this is just a small case, but it shows how we can recover, rebuild millions of houses destroyed by Russians. And that is not possible without political representation. You cannot discuss salaries without political representation or opportunities for vocational training or any kind of any level of education. Yesterday we went back from Khmelnytsky. We met representatives of Mariupol Construction College. They were fully relocated from Mariupol to Khmelnytsky. This is the largest college with largest representation of young people because they are so energetic. Regarding women, in Ukraine, we believe that that's somehow okay to pay 25% less to women, to professionals who do the same job, who work with tile or treat people or teach people. Well, I have a daughter, and I always say that any man becomes a feminist if they have a daughter, right? So I don't want her to grow up into the situation where in her job she doesn't have convenient toilet facilities, that she doesn't have uniform that would be convenient and safe. So, of course, for that sake, we need all of those skills, including negotiations, bargaining skills, because now in the labor market, employers come to trade unions and they ask us, well, do you have some database so that we could invite people to work for us? But 6 million people are now in the EU and they moved out of the country. And also with those labor conditions where it is, they do not pay equal to men and women, they do not provide proper conditions to women, we won't give this context to this kind of employers because they will, there is no future for this labor market. If I may, very briefly, I understand, let's try to be very brief, sorry. Wanted to add a couple of words about rights and guarantees for women. That's a very important thing during the war and also in post-war recovery. Rights of women, this is something that we can discuss seriously when we create conditions to provide women with a choice what they want to do, because they are paralyzed, they are responsible for their households, and especially in the war, lots of men are at the front line, so women have even more responsibility. And even if they want to have paid jobs, sometimes they cannot do that because there are not enough preschool facilities or interest groups for children that would be free because population is poor, they cannot pay for those. So they don't have enough time for advanced training, for paid work, and that results in poverty. So this is like vicious circle. So households where there are children, we see that statistically they are poorer than those that are childless, especially if that's a single mother. And also in post-war recovery, ILO in 2003 in their report, they report that every year 5% more women need to be engaged in labor market, in paid labor, to recover the country in the next year. So let's start creating the infrastructure in order to support women's access to paid jobs, like post-school facilities, canteens at schools or nurseries or preschool facilities, so that women didn't have to do it all, taking care of elderly people and people who need care, and there are more of them in the context of the war, so we need to create jobs. So there are a lot of opportunities if you understand women's needs and their potential for the economy. Thank you, Franz. And let's wrap up. Yes, colleagues, I would like to express gratitude to you for this very cool discussion. And in order to go deeper and to discuss all the outstanding questions, I'm sure the audience has those, let's proceed with networking, informal discussion, and let's look forward to the next panel discussion.
Ваші оплески, давайте поаплодуємо, подякуємо.
Right, let's give a round of applause to the speakers. And dear friends, we have 25 minutes for coffee. And then at 11:45, quarter to 12, we proceed with the next panel discussion.
Друзі, запрошуємо всіх вас.
Dear friends, could you please take your seats? And the prospective panelists, if you could come closer to this stage. Thank you very much. I understand networking is extremely important and you would like to meet new people and to establish contacts, but the time is running, so please, if you could come in and we will start panel 4.
Друзі, займайтеся. Давайте разом, обережно. Всі сидять, да, тут все забито. Кадр був, знаєш, зовсім інакше. вас, можливо, буде крісло колісне.
Шановні друзі, поки ми
Dear friends, while we are waiting and fine-tuning the equipment, I would kindly ask all of you to take your telephones in your hands to make a selfie with the person next to you. Just if you don't know him or her, and perhaps post it on any of your social media and provide a comment. So that would be appreciated. Yeah, the very last preparation, we are still waiting for a couple of our speakers, but we will start in a moment. So again, my request to all of you is for you to make a selfie and to provide a comment. Thank you very much. Post information about this event, please.
Ну що, ваші оплески, друзі, ми починаємо.
Okay, so we start. Right, so this is panel 4, and it will be dedicated to a progressive agenda for Ukraine's recovery and future, and it will take a format of an open microphone. We've got with us Kathleen Van Brempt, Pavlo Frolov, Evgenia Shelest, Maxim Bondarenko, Andriy Siromacha, we are still waiting for him to join in, Artem Bondarev, and Viktor Rabokin. And Bogdan will be moderating this panel. Thank you, dear friends. That's the final and the most important panel discussion, because with us we've got wonderful friends and veterans, European politicians, representatives of our partner organization, and I would like to invite all of you to take your seats, to focus, and to us, representatives of the S&D platform, the topics of fairness, justice, and inclusion is at the top of our agenda. Another plus of this panel discussion is that we propose to have it in the format of an open microphone, which means that all of you will have an opportunity to have a say. Not only those on the stage, not only the panelists will have an opportunity to speak, but all of you will also be able to provide comments, because it's through you that the adjustment, the rehabilitation, the reconstruction and recovery is possible. Do you agree with this format? Yes, we do. Thank you. Thank you very much for your responsiveness. So I will be using 2 languages, so those who need the headset for interpretation, please go and fetch one. My first question is of more general nature. We, within the S&D platform operation, have formulated a vision of fair recovery in collaboration with the UK Labour Party. Britain, you know, support us very vehemently, both militarily and otherwise. So we work together with Friedrich Ebert's foundation in wording this vision. It is important because the discussion amongst politicians and amongst political parties lack this focus on inclusion, on ensuring that veterans are empowered, that their priorities are taken on board. You can learn more about our vision. It has been described in detail, and the proper materials are available. Now I will switch to English.
Say a big thanks to Kathleen, because I remember our first meeting in the European Parliament. You were so open, so inspirational for me personally and for our platform, because we believe that politics can work for people with disabilities. And I think that it is necessary in Ukraine to make more better changes in our political society context. First of all, I would like to ask you, maybe you can share the vision how the inclusiveness, how the just fair recovery could be an option in our cooperation between Ukraine and the European Union. Please.
Okay, this one. Thank you very much, and happy to see you all. Been an inspiring 2 days, 2.5 days. Had a lot of talks with so many wonderful people. So happy that there are so many young people, and let me start with that. It is, of course, you will need everybody for the recovery, but you will need young, progressive people like you, Bogdan, and many people here in the room to lead that transition. Of course, we will be there from the European Parliament and the European side, and of course, we will invest a lot. But it's not just about money. It's about getting a system in place that is both sustainable and just and democratic. And all these three words are extremely important. All three are extremely important. And for that, these days are very important because we cannot do that for you. We don't want to do that for you. That's long past that in Western Europe or Europe, we think we can do it for other parts. No, you will do it. All of you here in the room, you will do it. But for that, it's so extremely important. I cannot stress that enough. That in the next elections, and let's hope they come soon, because if they come soon, it means that the war is over. That we have a progressive social democratic party standing and having a good result. It doesn't have to be the biggest. You don't have to, might be, would be wonderful. But you need to be in the parliament, you need to be strong enough to get these progressive policies in place. That is crucial. And then I come back to the three words. Democracy. Let me start with that, because in the word social democracy, you have democracy, and rightly so. There are societies in the world where you can have quick, efficient recoveries, or quick, efficient economic development. Think about China. China is a very important player in the world. I'm not going to talk about China, but I use China as an example to explain to you that, of course, is not the model. And let me be quite frank, I don't have to come and lecture you about communism. So let's not go there. It's democracy, democracy, democracy. And there has been a panel on that. But let me also stress, it's not just elections. Democracy is and freedom of speech and free media, and also the protection of minorities and the weakest persons in your society. That is part of a democracy as well. And then I come to the word sustainable. And sustainable has in itself both the social as the ecological transition. And the good thing, there's nothing good about the war, but as you know, every crisis has its advantages. You will be able to leapfrog immediately into a new economy. Do not start building, can I say that, all these fossil fuels-based energy system. Immediately go into a sustainable energy system. We can do that together because we can strengthen each other. Don't make the mistake to go on the pathway of what is easy money, because there will be easy money. But the good thing about Ukraine, is a wonderful country, is two things. You're a wealthy country, you don't see that today, but you're a very wealthy country because you have space, you have critical raw materials. I know that since Trump is looking at them. We know you have a lot of critical raw materials. Don't sell it to Trump. Keep it for yourself. No, it's really very important. It's really very important. But nothing is as strong as the people. And what you see today in the war, I can only just have so much admiration for what you are doing on the battlefield, but also all the people supporting them in doing that. The resilience and the strength of the Ukrainian people are important for that resilience and for that recovery. There's no reason whatsoever that there is not a very big part of Ukrainian people that think social democracy and progressive. There's absolutely a lot of people, and I know that the word socialism is not the right way to go because of history, but what you need is a very good narrative on social recovery and sustainable recovery, and you can do that. I'm quite, if there's one very optimistic idea that I have, is that what's happening today here is the basis of that sustainable social democratic recovery for the future of Ukraine.
Thank you. As I mentioned, when you are speaking, it's also inspirational for all of us, and interesting topic with Trump and raw materials. Sometimes you have sometimes no option. Oh, it seems like you have no option, but
I
I truly agree with you
and he will not be
that
there for a
our
long
natural
time.
resources are owned by our Ukrainian people,
Absolutely.
first of all. And
if you're part of European Union, of the European Union, of course.
Yeah, we are working very hard
Yeah, I know.
to become. Thanks a lot. And one more question, because first and very important position you have in S&D group, the second largest group in the European Parliament. You are vice president of this group. And at the same time, you are representing Belgium as a politician. And how are you just working in the context of supporting people with disabilities? I mean, your country, because it is also important for us to know much better about the experience. Maybe you can share this.
I was a little bit afraid you're going to ask me a question about the frozen assets.
Oh, I know that it's quite sensitive one.
But let's go to a very important subject of that. Well, for that we need an hour to sort of explain, but let's keep close contact to that. In a former career, I was also a Minister of Equal Opportunities in the Flemish part of Belgium. You know, Belgium, difficult country, three languages. And in that, it's very important that when it comes to equal opportunities and equal access, you need a very holistic approach. We have a law in Belgium, and by the way, it's also European law. It's a European law and a Belgian law that says that you need to do whatever necessary to make sure that everybody has an equal part in your society. And that is, of course, working, and again, in your recovery plans, put them in from the start, because you're going to build so many things. You're going to build the city of the future, because a lot of things have been destroyed. If you build the city of the future, make sure that people with disabilities, whatever disabilities, and that they are an equal part of the system, and that's in infrastructures, that's in buildings, but equally important is the educational system in Belgium, and it has been a huge discussion because it's really difficult. But people with both mental as physical disabilities should be able to follow the normal pathway in the educational system. Don't put them in all sorts of. Sometimes you need to. Sometimes the needs are very high and too high to meet in the classical or the normal system. But you can do a lot, and that's an inclusive, holistic approach. And that would be my main answer. You need to look at every level in your society and approach from the start. If you're an architect and you create a building where everybody has access to, you create a better building for everybody. It doesn't harm anybody, right? And it shouldn't even cost you more. It's just all about putting the holistic, inclusive approach from the start in the design of your society.
Thanks a lot. Totally agree with you. The audience, please. We just only that we can do not only support but try to do this in Ukrainian reality, because I think that Social Democrats are the main political movement and force in the European Union, and not only in the European Union, that stands for prioritization people with disabilities. I remember all my congresses of Party of European Socialists, and what I identified, a lot of people with disabilities, that is really a good case to include these people, not only like participants, but as decision makers. And our aim as SD platform here in Ukraine also to include these people as decision makers who can draft laws, who can just vote for the prioritization of the people with disabilities in Ukrainian politics. And I think it's not only for our political movement, it's necessary to have in all political movements this kind of priority. Thanks a lot, and big pleasure to have you here in Kyiv in person. Thank you. I will switch in Ukrainian. Зараз перейду на українську мову.
Okay, I am switching into Ukrainian. The topic of this panel is inclusion. Unfortunately, the Russian aggression back in 2014 brought about a lot of atrocities and a lot of challenges for internally displaced people who suffered then and who continue to be suffering today because they've lost almost everything: their housing, their limb, and health. So what should they do to survive under the circumstances? We work with the relocated universities and schools, and some of them have been relocated 2 or 3 times even, and that's a true tragedy. And when it comes to prioritization of those people, of those institutions, those who have been affected by this war, most of all, we should think about how to support them. Pablo, I've known you for years, even before you got elected as a member of parliament. So my question to you is of a personal nature to a certain extent. And then I will ask you a professional question. You are a member of parliament, and you also chair an ad hoc commission to protect the rights of internally displaced persons, those who require assistance first and foremost. So, but first, my personal question. I remember that we used to play football before you were elected as an MP, but now you don't play football anymore. What happened? How come that you don't play football anymore? Does your life improve when you are elected MP, or does it deteriorate? Are you still a human being that you used to be, or are you somewhere at the Olympus and you do not remember what being a person in the street is like? Thank you very much for this question of yours. Good afternoon, everyone. That depends on a personality. Not only don't I have time to play football, but I have no time to cycle, to go mountaineering, to play tennis, whatever. I don't know how my wife is bearing with me, frankly speaking. So she let you even go and join our discussion on Saturday. Yes, before I was elected chair of this commission, I also participated in the reform of the accounting chamber. And the European Commission assessed our effort very highly. The reform of the accounting chamber, which is the financial control authority, supreme financial control authority in our country. Yeah, I understand that you are very busy, but how come that people who are elected sometimes forget all about people who elected them and their needs? I think it depends on your values that were imbued in you when you were raised by your family, by your school. It is essential that you remain a human being with the values that are shared with those who voted for you. And I'm sure that we will have enough internal resource to remember about people who elected us. Thank you very much. Thank you for this very emphatic answer. Now, professional question. You work with IDPs and with relocated institutions. How many IDPs do we have in Ukraine, to your knowledge, and what are their priorities? What are the needs that are still outstanding, that are still not met? So, and what do you do in your commission to have them met? So, you work on the ground, you meet with the people personally, but what decisions have been taken and what are still to be taken to address those issues? Our parliamentary commission not only protects the IDPs' rights, we have got 4.6 million IDPs in Ukraine, and we have more than 6 million Ukrainian refugees abroad. And there are about 6 million people who are still in temporarily occupied territories. And according to the very latest estimates, 2.5 million households have lost their housing. And if we look at the size of the household, then it will be tantamount to about 6 million people who've lost their housing, according to the Economic and Social Commission of the UN. So it is our priority to recover this country, but we should focus on those who need housing first and foremost. So it means that we will have to rebuild housing for the population, say, of Bulgaria or Switzerland. So we've lost 16% of the housing stock of Ukraine, and to IDPs, housing is the top priority. The value of reconstruction will be $524 billion as of today. If we calculate the pre-war budgets, it will take us more than 11 years to get recovered. So if we calculate the assets of the Russian Federation that are frozen in the West and that can be channeled to support recovery, so it should be at least 300 billion. So we still lack 200 billion euros or dollars. So that can be channeled should a decision be made by the democratic world to channel this money for the Ukrainian recovery. So this amount of 524 billion does not even include the damage to life and limb of Ukrainians.
So Ukraine has the achievement. Ukraine is the first country ever that, even before the end of the war, has started the process of war reparation. So far, that's about accounting the damage for the damage and losses. And you know that usually Security Council of the United Nations makes that decision, but it is blocked by Russia. Russia has the veto voice, and Ukraine discovered these mechanisms, and so on the platform of the Council of Europe, more than 40 countries have joined, and international organizations. Recently, Australia joined, and the first phase, this international registry of losses, it is registered in The Hague, and it is now present in Ukraine, and about 70,000 applications have already been submitted to the registry. Potentially, it's going to be 8 to 10 million. It's important that we help affected individuals to submit these applications. All in all, it's going to be 43 categories. 14 have been open so far. This is IDPs, deaths of close relative, bodily injuries, loss of property, loss of housing. Okay, then the first thing that's important there, these statements, applications, there are a few of them so far. We have a colleague in our progressive network who also supports the legal process of submitting applications for compensation. It needs to be much more of those applications. We need to disseminate this information. We need to work with affected individuals so that they apply. And the second aspect, well, you like mentioning figures, but I have this question to you. You visit the most concentrated, accumulated people where IDPs are located along frontline areas. So you can share maybe, so when you meet these people, when you talk to them, what are your feelings, what are your insights? Well, you know, the sessions, official sessions are important figures, but this communication, I believe this is the greatest driver for you to help them even more from here, from Kyiv. So what are your first impressions when you go to the field, when you talk to those people? Well, we do that on a regular basis, on a weekly basis. We go to the regions, not only to the eastern regions, many move to central and western parts of Ukraine. And, you know, this is like doctors, you know, who witness this huge human tragedies. And it is really hard to go back to work, to life after those visits, because people may tell you, like an elderly couple, they live in collective sites. In a collective site, they have some room there, and they say, well, we have this child that we take care of, and we are in our 70s, but we'll die soon. But what about this child? The parents were killed by Russia, and we need help, but we do not have the money to help everyone. 6 million people lost their housing, and all of our taxes, all of our customs duties, privatization revenues are used for security purposes, for defense, because support of IDP, support for all the affected individuals, salaries for doctors, for teachers, that's all supported by the finance from the Western world, international organizations, IMF, and so on and so forth. So again, this is about justice, and this is something that will be the burden on the shoulders of the next generations. That's hard, but well, what gives us energy to work 24/7? Of course, that inspires us, but these stories, you know, well, they make me tearful, because unfortunately our resources are limited, and it is important. Well, we are grateful for this brave, courageous visits to Ukraine, to Kyiv. Lots of European parliamentarians go to the front line, and if you wish, we could go to Kharkiv or to the transit centers closer to the front line. We do manage to do a lot of things. We went to the transit center in Pavlograd, where they take evacuated people because there was this attack on Dobropilla. A lot of people were displaced, and there were these tents organized by international organizations in particular. So we highlighted the situation. Now the Prime Minister went there. Happily, the situation is improving. And there are 3 more of those transit centers where people are first taken after evacuation. So this is not for permanent stay. Anyway, that's temporary. So we could go and see that. Now, what all of us need to do, what we are doing, I mentioned that we have already started work with the international registry. There will be compensation committee that is also an international treaty. That is going to be the compensation commission that will decide on the amount of reparations on each case. So far, we have 70,000 applications, and then the compensation fund. This is also an international agreement based on the Council of Europe platform, but we need to speed up this work. We need to look for these funds, because people need reparations, and we never know when it comes. It may be 5 or 10 years, no one knows, maybe faster if the situation of the war is somehow settled for the benefit of Ukraine. But people need help here and now. And the state, the parliament, our commission, we are implementing a lot of initiatives to help people here and now. For housing, for example, there is e-Vidnovlення, e-recovery program. Has been very successful. 143,000 households received support for repairing their property if it was damaged, or certificates for new housing if they lost their housing. More than half of those families, about 15,000 families that received new apartments. That's an achievement of our commission, because we did allocate these funds from the budget. We quickly adopted the law, and we developed a mechanism that makes it possible to use that for IDPs, for individuals who lost their losses. Then there is the state assistance for housing, and this is much lower payments than what they need to pay renting an apartment, but, well, because and well, colleagues know that sometimes there may be these political ideas to limit that, and we never supported that because 2,000 or 3,000 hryvnias, that's not enough. People lost everything. They lost their jobs, they lost their dear ones, or they had the experience of being in occupation or being under shellings. They're so stressed, it's so difficult for them to integrate to host communities, but these attacks go on, right? There are a lot of cases where we see that people lose their housing not just once. And I believe that for this compensation program, it is important to extend it and to cover those who lost their housing starting from 2014, because the war has been ongoing since 2014 for more than 11 years. It's important that those who lost their housing in occupied territories, that they were included into the program as well, because most people are from occupied territories. So this is the draft law that we are promoting, and that's about justice. Thank you. That's very important. Let me interrupt you, though. So this is about justice, and this is what we need to develop together. Thank you so much. We have other participants to speak up. We don't have a lot of time, though. So let's proceed with another very important topic, and that's the topic of inclusion. Let's say thank you to Pavlo for his work. We definitely see that you are living and breathing with this topic, that it's not that you have to do that. You need to be inspired, and you need to have like-minded people who support you and who give sense to all of this work. So we wish you enough energy, strength to continue working on that. And the next topic of our discussion, it is a very particular topic, and that's about supporting the veterans of war who lost their eyesight. That's a very important topic for our team, and we are very happy to have our heroes with us here. This is Maxim. Let's welcome Maxim Bondarenko. Artem Bondarev from Vinnytsia. We're so happy to have you here. You are our heroes. And also, I would like to welcome Evgenia. She will share information about the initiative. This is Light Inside. Within this initiative, by the way, we all met each other, though I knew Artem long time ago, but I'll speak about that later. So, Evgenia, can you tell us about the important significance of supporting veterans who lost their eyesight and what we have done already? Thank you. We are the largest NGO in the field of education, and we have more than 2,000 members, about 5,000 activists. We work on the topic of inclusion. We've been working for a while, and we always felt responsible to promote the topic of inclusion, our engagement, the engagement of educators into processes of rehabilitation and integration. I believe that Bogdan will speak more about that. But it happened so that we had this meeting of Bogdan with the veterans who lost their eyesight, and he was so inspired with that topic that we decided to focus on supporting people, veterans who went blind. And in August this year, we decided to organize the retreat camp Light Inside for veterans, not only for them, but for their families as well, and that's no less important. Everything started with a retreat camp where we made it possible for them to try various rehabilitation tools by providing information about modern applications, using IT adapted for blind people, various activities, skeledron dancing. But in order to go deeper into these discussions, we focused on what veterans and their family members need, actually. There were families. We also invited representatives of local governments and national authorities. And basically that's their duty already, but there, during the camp, they could hear the veterans. They could see what they are missing, lacking. And at the end of that retreat activity, we had some time for reflections, and the guys suggested to avoid the situation where we just had that discussion for a while and that's it. We decided to continue working on that. And they asked us to help them be heard. So that transformed into this important initiative where people who have eyesight could see those who are blind, so that veterans, people with disabilities, so that they had the right to have rights and to use those and to be fully engaged in decision making, into using the infrastructure, and this infrastructure so that it were inclusive. In this way, we came up with top 10 demands from the veteran community to national authorities and local governments. Let's show those on the screens. So we decided to present those on the 15th of October, International Day of the White Cane. In Ukraine Forum, we organized a press conference. We invited the community representatives. There was this slide with 10 demands, requirements. So we had the opportunity to present the guys and their demands. We also organized an activity in Hryshchatyk Street in downtown so that people could hear those demands, not only those who directly work with that, but the society in general, representatives of the public, representatives of public authorities and local governments. That's about accessible infrastructure and the need for social support, psychological support for veterans, for family members. And it's important that we invited for the conference. There was a wife of a veteran who spoke about her pain, about psychological issues, problems finding a job. She spoke about that when a veteran loses, when a soldier loses eyesight, and they are in hospitals, they are all alone, or maximum with their spouses, with their families. But there is no due support from the very beginning where the person loses eyesight and further on in the process of rehabilitation. This is about quality treatment, about prosthetic devices, about financial support, about training military psychologists and reducing the degree of bureaucracy. Lots of paperwork is required, and usually it is expensive to hire a lawyer. And that is about awareness raising. And veterans, they are a compass for our society. And even in the darkest times, the light, all of us have this light inside, but we need to bring it outside. So I feel a lot of respect for veterans, for their spouses, for their families, and I call on all of us to come together and invite European colleagues to help us do these important things. Thank you, Evgenia. And you can see the demands: inclusive infrastructure, adaptive technologies, social support, technological, psychological support, quality treatment, individual prosthetics, and jobs, adapted jobs. And this is training, the housing, training the experts, military psychologists, reduced bureaucratic thresholds, awareness raising. And we don't have that on the slide, but what's really important is empathy. That's what makes us human. And by the way, this empathy, we feel that from our partners who are here, who are co-organizers of this summit, the foundation named after Olof Palme, that famous Swedish ex-prime minister. And we work with the foundation, we work with our colleagues, and this initiative, Light from Inside, these activities were held with the foundation support for our veterans. Thank you so much, because that's an important practical component of our cooperation. And I'd like to pass the floor now to Maxim, who was fighting in the army in Luhansk region. He inspires me and a lot of his peers, in particular veterans who lost their sight. So can you share your story with us? Can you share your vision of how priorities of blind veterans should be heard and implemented? And thank you, Maxim, for being with us today.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'll tell you a bit about myself. I'm a war veteran of the Russo-Ukrainian War. I got to the front line when I was 22, back in 2015. So during this all-out war, I also volunteered from the very first days. I volunteered to defend Severodonetsk in Luhansk Oblast, because I come from Luhansk Oblast. And in June, I got the blast injury that impaired my eyesight. But I didn't lose a vision of my country in the future. That's why I would like to raise one of the fundamental issues in our society. It is about barrierlessness. That's equality, inclusion, and absence of barriers in every meaning of the word. In Ukraine, inclusion is not just a concept, it is a vital reality. In the conditions of the war that our country is now going through, inclusion can become a key to fairness and unity. A lot of veterans who come to the rear from the front require adaptation and support. And I believe that inclusion can be the factor that will help them find their proper place in post-war peaceful Ukraine. So fairness and equality is not just a legal term. It is a necessity that will ensure that everyone has equal access, equal opportunities, and it is a foundation for a fair society. A society where everyone has got equal opportunities, equal chances to succeed in life. We are speaking about removing all barriers to people striving to accomplish themselves in their lives. It's about accessibility of information. It's about equal access to technologies, to education, to work. It's about everyone feeling part and parcel of the society, being dignified, be respected. So it is important to speak about inclusion, not just to provide support to some people, but in order to shape a society that is tolerant, that is unified, that is friendly to everyone, and it is about the path for the country towards sustainable development and European integration. So we've been discussing inclusion for some time here, and I do agree that inclusion should be observed from the very beginning of the recovery work, and we should have done that long ago. Today, when I open the door from my apartment and step into the street, I face barriers everywhere that keep me from being autonomous. It's the cover on the pavements, it's the absence of tactile lanes, it's the absence of properly equipped stops for public transportation. And that precludes my proper integration into the urban environment. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you, Maxim. Very strong message, and I hope that it will be heard and that the issues that you've raised will be addressed by the decision makers at different levels. We've got our friends and colleagues with us from the city of Venezia. I'll tell you my story, if you don't mind. Before the all-out war, I worked at a confectionery, and on the very early morning of the 24th of February 2022, my family members told me that the war started. I could hardly believe it. But then people started pounding on my door, and they told me that missiles were raining down on this city. So there was a huge blast close to my house, and it switched me on, so to say. I realized that it was a true war. Then, while looking at the newsreels, I also read about this large-scale invasion, and I started thinking how to respond to that. I saw that the people around me were extremely scared, and I decided that it was up to me to help them. And I lived with my mom, so I warned her that I would volunteer to join in the armed forces. I was properly trained, and I was sent to the front line in Luhansk, Donetsk, and Kharkiv Oblast. And 3 days before the new year of 2023, I was wounded. In the hospital, they told me that I would not be able to see anymore. I coped psychologically, I can tell you, but I kept asking myself, how will I continue living? Who will support me in this new life-changing experience? And I was sent to Dnipro first and then to Lviv to a military hospital, and a volunteer approached me. She said that she could help me. She could show me how to use a stick for the people with impaired vision, and she actually inspired me. So we started talking, we started discussing my future life. and she showed me how to use this stick, how to move around with this stick. And it took us 3 hours, and it actually enabled me to be more or less autonomous, to move on my own. I studied the layout of the hospital. Then she came months later, and she taught me to walk around the hospital. And thanks to this support, when I returned home, I was more or less capable of autonomous living. My family became hyper supportive, I would say. They tried to shield me from everything. So I had to evade this extreme care and support. I wanted to be more or less independent and autonomous. So I went to several places where I could be on my own so that I could use public transportation. And I felt all of the shortcomings of the transportation that is not inclusive at all. Yeah, and I got demobilized from the military service. And I had to undergo a course of rehabilitation. When I was still in the hospital, nobody had told me where to get trained. I didn't know where to get assistance aside from what that girl volunteered to provide to me. And then one of the NGOs invited me to join in the rehabilitation camp, where I also learned how to get better oriented in this space. Then I got information about a rehabilitation center in Vinnytsia, and I continue cooperating with them till today. We do have those barriers in the infrastructure, and in the Vinnytsia community, people have started to pay more attention to the needs of people with impaired vision. So we have to learn from those NGOs. We have to learn from international best practices, because it's an unprecedented experience of a country that has faced this need of thousands of people who are either blind or have impaired vision, and they are still active. They want to contribute to the development of this society. So we have to adjust the infrastructure to them, and we have to train them how to use this infrastructure. So I would like to take this opportunity talking to people from Europe. I know that there are at least 2 large centers, one in the Netherlands and one in some other countries, where you rehabilitate people with impaired vision. So if I could, I would gladly talk to experts from your rehabilitation centers, and we have some experience to share with experts in your countries. Not only when it comes to the problems with vision, but also other injuries, life-changing injuries. I'm a positive person. I'm an optimist. We've noticed that. Thank you for being an optimist. I strive to continue developing professionally and individually. When I got demobilized, I still remained working in the same company where I used to work before the war. I got adjusted to the new working environment, and I'm very thankful to my wife and to my colleagues there. So I established first contact with the military personnel at the hospital, and I keep in touch with all of those who I met there in hospital. Thus, we provide support to one another. We have those self-assistance groups, and it is extremely important to support people from the very beginning when they start being rehabilitated, whether they start being adjusted to this new condition of their life. So, and I can be one who helps people see this light from the inside. And I've seen people who rely on my assistance, and that pleases me a lot. So people who get demobilized from the armed service, even though they are injured, even though they have health conditions, they still can live an autonomous, self-fulfilling life. If we could see a video. There's no audio, unfortunately. Thank you very much. I think it will inspire a lot of war veterans. Just, it is important to have this light inside and be supported by other people and support other people. As I said, it is necessary to train blind people, people with impaired vision, to orient in the environment, to show them legal ways of standing up to their for their rights, and then make sure that they can contribute to this society meaningfully. So employment for war veterans is extremely important. It is important to go out, to do something useful for other people, to be employed and to, as I said, contribute to the development of the society. So I would like to learn from other countries how they get around these issues. We survived in the war. We have certain barriers because of our health condition. It is very scary at the beginning, and it is tragic, but we can overcome it. We can actually roll up the sleeves and start working. Thank you very much. As I said, it is the most important panel today, and since we've got this format of open microphone, I know that Artem is not alone here. He has company. Could you please comment on how you got adjusted to those conditions? Good afternoon. I'm Yulia Babaeva. I'm also from Vinnytsia. I work for the Podillia Rehabilitation Center, and that's where I met Artem. I am in charge of the rehabilitation of people with impaired vision. Back in 2023, we didn't know how to work with people who lost their eyesight. And we started this work just because there was a need to support such veterans. We had very little knowledge of how to rehabilitate blind people and people with impaired vision. And over these last years, we worked to develop professionally, to train rehabilitation teams throughout the country to provide support to people with impaired vision, so particularly after they got wounded. He was first supported by another blind person, the volunteer who knew how to get rehabilitated. So we did a lot to launch a large-scale training project for medical professionals from 5 regions. These are the people who can provide support to veterans, particularly when they survive through that very acute health condition. So a person who works as a rehabilitologist, I see it as my objective to help people return into the meaningful working lives, for them to contribute to the society. And Maxim and Artem will agree with me, I hope, in that treatment, rehabilitation, return to their families is the path of the rehabilitation as we have it right now, meaning that they should remain indoors. That is very sad. People with impaired vision are capable people. They can be autonomous, they can create and form new families, they can use digital technologies, they can write programs, they can do psychology. So it is on us, it is up to us to help them overcome those barriers. And we should talk to employers for them to be brave and to employ people with impaired vision. It will be beneficial to every one of us in our society, because people who lose their eyesight because of the injury, they don't want to live on allowances, right, to live on doles. They would like to contribute to the economy, and I would like to thank Maxim and Artem for raising these issues. They are essential not only for veterans themselves, but for a lot of civilians throughout the country, because there are a lot of people who suffered because of this war.
Thank you for your work. Thank you for, as you mentioned, that unfortunately we have a lot of blind people, and somehow they are invisible to those people who can see, not only veterans, those are. So we try to work with those people who were born without eyesight, and well, they are better adapted, right? So to link them with veterans so that they can help them to adapt faster. According to various estimations, now about more than 70,000 people in Ukraine. Unfortunately, we don't have official statistics, but every day of the war of Russia brings new cases of losing eyesight, and so let's keep working on that. Thank you. Thanks for your work, for seeing that as a priority. And now to Andrei. We've been looking for you and looking forward to seeing you. Andrei Seramacha is a famous veteran of the Russian-Ukrainian war, and he inspires me. I met him at a session in the Dutch embassy, and since then we keep in touch. Recently, Andrei was appointed as an advisor of the chairperson of Kyiv Regional Council, and that's important, how to prioritize inclusive approach. And also Andrei is very creative, because he has joined us after some creative activity. So hello, and could you please share your vision how to prioritize needs of veterans of the Russia-Ukraine war, needs of people with disabilities? Thank you. For me, it's a great honor to be here today. Thank you, Bogdan, for inviting. To me, that's a huge honor. I am Andrei Seramacha. I'm 25. I am just someone who doesn't want to remain indifferent and aloof, estranged in this period of time. This is such a difficult time for our entire nation and for the world in general. We have to undergo huge trials, but every trial, every challenge is an opportunity to grow. We can grow stronger, we can discover our wisdom and our path. I'm very grateful to all European partners who are supporting us today. Thank you for supporting Ukraine, for being engaged, for helping us in this very hard and very cruel war. And let me switch to English to address a couple of words directly to them.
Europe got 80 years of peace thanks to the determined leader and brave soldier of 20th century who were not afraid to challenge evil and fight for justice. And as before, so now the only things necessary for triumph of evil is for good people to do nothing. For 11 years now, the brutal war in Ukraine has been going on. For 11 years in a row, Russian aggressor destroying our villages, cities, killing and terrorizing people. For 11 years, now all our nations, Ukrainians, have been defending their homeland, repelling aggressor and showing heroism and courage. But also in this time, I'm very grateful to you for not turning away from us in such a difficult time. Europe providing a lot amount of military and humanitarian aid, sheltering, treating our wounded soldiers like me. I get a treatment in Netherlands. And sheltering our women and children who were forced to be sheltering in the Europe. But in order for them, for returning to Ukrainian territory, they need, for returning to their home, we need your support. We need weapon, we need ammo, we need equipment, because we are fighting with a very big totalitarian giant. And for win it, we need supporting. In this very difficult time, we must be united and act as one. Only in this case, we can protect our home and future and peace of Europe too. I'm not one of those who take freedom and independence for granted, because freedom is not a gift. It's a choice. It's a responsibility. And every morning, in moment of silence, I remember those who gave their lives not only for freedom of Ukraine, for defend Ukraine, but also for prepare our world from returning to an era of terror, impunity, and imperialism. For us, it's a struggle for our native land and right to choose. For the Europe, it's the last frontier after which chaos begins. But also, we must believe in change, and we must be making this change. Because each of us can be this small change that will move all world. And we have not right to be indifferent, because indifference is a silent agreement for injustice. And every time where we turn blind eyes for injustice near us, we are losing a chance for a change our fall for the better. Only united we can overcome any obstacles and make our world a place where every life, every act and every good deed is valued. In this difficult time of serious challenges, we must be united and really act as one. Only in this case we can protect our home, future and peace. Long life Europe, and slava Ukraini!
Героям слава!
Thank you, Andrei. Thank you for what you are doing when you go abroad, when you communicate in theater. I know that you are doing a lot so that in Europe they don't forget about that. Unfortunately, every hour, every day, the Russian war is ongoing, taking the most valuable lives of our people. And it's important that us and European partners, that we understand that and that we realize how we need the support and why it is so vital. Thank you, and thank you for your work. I'm happy to say that Andriy is a participant of the European Politician Training course that we have already finalized online in cooperation with Friedrich Ebert Stiftung and Foundation of Max van der Stoel. He is an alumni of that training course. That's good that young people want to deepen their knowledge about European politics, how it works, and how we could work with that. So I wish you every success, to all participants of the training course, to you personally in this important endeavor. Thank you. And we have another guest with us, and then we will focus on a bit different topic, but it's no less important. Viktor Rybakin is co-founder of NGO Від серця будови. This is about affordable housing, about the need to address this huge issue, as mentioned by Pavlo already. Unfortunately, lots of people lost their housing. So the floor is yours. Can you share experience of your organization, what you have already managed to implement? Thank you, Bogdan. There's a very inspiring contribution. Thank you for organizing this panel discussion. And I believe that it's very nice to be the last one to speak up in the course of this panel discussion. When Kathleen was speaking, she mentioned dignity, equality, inclusiveness. Pavlo spoke about importance of IDPs and housing for them as a basic need in the situation of the war and after the war. When Evgenia was speaking, Artem as well, we heard about inclusive approach, about action, about that words must always transform into action. Andriy inspired us, and he spoke about everyone's responsibility, that we can change the reality that we live in and that we can be the creators of it. We have all the opportunities to do that. Many of us have the physical capacity, some don't, but we need to keep that in mind. So we need to come together, we need to work on comprehensive solutions, and I would like to speak about comprehensive approach to recovery. Because, you know, it is easy to break just one cane, but can you imagine breaking it when it is like dozens of straws, right? We were established after onset of the full-scale invasion, and we decided to work on long-term solutions, because initially they discussed temporary solutions, but above all we need ongoing, long-lasting solutions. Me and my partner, we worked in the field of real estate, and we decided that we will focus on the topic of long-term housing and on creating housing for those who have been affected by the war. These are IDPs, these are people who were displaced for various reasons, veterans, other affected individuals, people with disability. All of these categories of people, they require support from our society. So we decided to establish an NGO and start acting. We have the state, the government, but also we have the public sector. We see how volunteers are changing our world in Ukraine and abroad, and we implement incredible initiatives. We see that. We need to be aware of that. We could do that all alone. There were just two of us. We created this Від серця будова NGO, and the name is very eloquent. We go from person to person. Every project that we implement is about an individual person. we implement each of those projects as if we do that for ourselves personally. So this is about affordable housing, but we understand that housing, it's not about all the problems of those people who are affected by the war. We need to provide social services, work, jobs, opportunity to do business. This is the only condition to create decent living conditions. So we decided to work on the topic of happiness. We have now 2 projects. When we started thinking about the impact of ours, our organization's impact, we thought we could create a city that will be the role model of how it is possible to organize economic and managerial processes in Ukraine. City is the best way to organize an experimentation field for development of a state. Aristotle spoke about polis as a state, city as a state. So we decided to build polis in Ukraine that's going to be not far from Kyiv, just 5 kilometers away from Kyiv, 90 hectares territory, and more than 20,000 people will be able to settle there, and 1/3 of those are people affected by the war. And we did that on purpose. We do that on purpose to provide for economic sustainability of this city. So we found an international consortium that includes more than 30 organizations from 13 countries. Globally, we are supported by academic institutions, MIT, Harvard, as an example. We also work a lot with international partners. When we started working on that project, we realized how comprehensive and complex those issues are, because we speak about the city, we speak about architecture mostly, but above all, that's about relationships. We need to create the culture of active city residents, those who are ready to work to change their community, their country, to change themselves, transform themselves, and we need to provide them with the tools for those transformations. So this project is a quintessence of the idea of social justice and dignity, because we pay a lot of attention to the topic of combining the private and public, as well as the civil society sector, because we cannot just rely on that they give us grants and we build all of that stuff. We need to engage the private sector. We need to engage the state at the level of regulation. We need to engage international partners who have experience and can share that experience. So this project is at the stage of advanced planning. We have the land plot, we have support of EBRD, and now we are engaging an international foundation that will finance that, and we hope to start construction in 2026. Also, understanding the need for social housing, we start working with communities. All over Ukraine, we work with communities to address the housing issues. Again, that's about comprehensive solutions, and I am grateful to all of our international partners and heads of communities, leaders of communities who understand the importance and relevance of these topics. Here in the audience, we also have Olga Pikula. She represents the community of Mariupol. Olga, show us your hand. Thank you for being with us. So they do incredible things, very ambitious projects already. And now we have even more ambitious projects in the pipeline to develop a network of settlements for Mariupol residents. This is going to be the communities where there will be social housing, commercial housing, and social activities, because I always emphasize the importance of economic sustainability of those projects. Otherwise, those projects will never be completed. So we work with the communities. We look for partners all over Ukraine in the communities where it is possible to build something, where they allocate land plots. We engage stakeholders like EBRD, European Investment Bank, other organizations organizations ready to engage. Hopefully, the European Commission will support our initiatives. And why I am speaking about that? I believe that we need to be brave. We need to come up with comprehensive solutions and promote those solutions, and we need to come together. We need to understand that no one but us will change the situation. So above all, we need to be self-reliant, but also we need to come together with those people who share your values, mission, and vision. So I wish us all to be proactive, to be to have the agency and to act responsibly. So thank you for this opportunity. I will be happy to answer your questions.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your optimism. It is very contagious, I would say. And you can feel it. You can feel this positive and optimistic vibe coming from you. And when I get in social media, certain advertising about very expensive housing or new resorts in Dubai or anywhere else. So all of that is not basic, indeed. So all of this advertising targets very wealthy people, but I don't come across any advertising of large-scale housing construction for those who risk their lives, for those who defended this country, for their families. It shouldn't be only about luxury housing, but it should be about social housing as well. So we have to be very clear about our priorities. The state, the country should be very clear about its priorities, and we will be working to shift those priorities in the correct direction. Thank you very much to all of you for your contribution, for your bravery, for your emotions, for your perseverance. It is extremely important, and we've got here Vasil from the trade union of the construction workers. So we should cooperate to implement these priorities in practice. So it's almost the end of the event. So now we will invite our panelists to return to their seats in the audience, and we will have the closing part, the closing remarks. It will be the very final, very brief, but very important part, because a lot has been done, but there is still work to do, and we have to think of where to go from today. We heard about the Netherlands and their best practices in supporting people with impaired vision. We heard about Ireland, several proposals to Kathleen and to Catherine within the S&D group. We can initiate the discussion about inclusion, about the fate of the veterans, and they can travel to the European Parliament so that this issue becomes more visible and it is shifted, or it is, say, pushed to the top of the Brussels agenda. So we should give this momentum to our common cause. So we will be moving ahead anyway. Thank you very much for being with us physically. Thanks to all of our heroes, to our veterans. Thank you. You can now step down. In the meantime, I would like to give the floor. Thank you. Thank you very much. And now, before we have the final panel, I will give the floor to Anthony Boymer. So this final panel will have the following shape and form. So I will invite Katarina and Anthony to summarize the proceedings of this summit, provide feedback, and perhaps acquaint us with the declaration of this summit. So over to you, Anthony and Catherine. You can have a rostrum even, so that you are better visible to each and every member of the audience. So, dear friends, while we are arranging the layout of the stage, my question to you, did you like this summit? Can you raise your hands if you did? Great. Okay. Okay. Thank you very much.
Katarina, first of all, I would like to say a big thanks from all of our team, all of our participants and our speakers for being here. And first question, your feeling, your feedback at the end of these 2 intense days, please.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the initiative. Thank you for all the work you've done in these past, well, many years. And thank you all for being here. I mean, I didn't disguise that I was emotional when it started, and I'm emotional now that it ends. I did tell you that when I came for the first time to Kyiv that I focused more on supporting in this terrible situation that you are in this war situation, and these 2 days were more about looking ahead, looking to the future, seeing how we can support you and how you see the future of Ukraine. And I found this, I can't describe how inspiring this was. I mean, we had many people on the panel, which sometimes made it a bit difficult, but every one of these contributions was so valuable. And we had so many different topics that we touched upon. We had EU accession, we had democracy, rule of law, we had labor rights, trade unions, we had social issues, veterans, housing, health issues. It was really the whole range of topics that you will have to deal with. And again, it was said before, it was not a one-way street. It's not, us coming from the European Union and giving you advice and role models on what you are supposed to do. It is learning from your experience. I mean, from your resilience also, from the way that you cope with this situation. It is so incredibly, inspiring and remarkable and how you are going to be shaping this Ukraine that will come out successfully out of this terrible war. Seeing you, how you discuss, how you act, the ideas that you have, how many young people attended these 2 days, how many young women, if I may say this as a feminist, how many young inspiring women were here and shared their views with each other and with us. So all of this is leaves me very, very optimistic looking into Ukrainians' future. The only thing that I really want to stress is why it is so important to have this social democratic aspect in the Ukrainian future. Because some things will come very easily to Ukraine after the war. There will be a lot of investment. There will be a lot of people interested in some sectors, those where you can make profits. But the decisive question will be, how can you shape Ukrainians' future in a way that really it benefits Ukrainians and all Ukrainians? And this is something, if you look at all the aspects that we discussed, and I just mentioned some of them, if you look at healthcare, if you look at housing, if you look at education, these are fields, infrastructure, transport. Well, you can make them profitable but then it will be quite costly for the people who have to pay for that. So there are areas where you really have to focus on how can we manage doing this in a way that the Ukrainian people who have endured this war so bravely and have contributed so much, all of you, how they can now be the ones in the center of attention, that this is a Ukraine for the Ukrainian people and not for the benefits of some rich people or from some investors from abroad. It should be your Ukraine, and it should be a social and a just and a sustainable Ukraine. And I go back very, very optimistically because we have these really brilliant and inspiring people like you, but also like all of you who have been here. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. And now I would like to give a floor Anthony Boymer, just former Secretary General of PS, S&D Group, and now a special envoy, representative of Party of European Socialists on supporting Ukraine. Please, Anthony, thanks a lot for your dedication, for your work that you've done on preparing this summit, because it's so important, it's practical, it's so crucial. When discussions, we can transform in very concrete issues. Please, Anthony.
Thank you. Thank you, Papa. Now, tonight we go back, 25 of us, with the train to the Polish border. And after, I think, what was a unique and unforgettable meeting, you noticed it was not just Katarina who got emotional when we made clear how important it is for us to be here with you. It goes under our skin. I coordinated with Bogdan, he in Kyiv, and myself with the group in Brussels, and 10 organizations, 8 of them you find here. That was a challenge, a tough job, but also a wonderful experience among friends. I'm not going to go through a list of names because there are too many. But I want to honor all the Ukrainian and wider European friends who've made a success of this gathering, and ask you for a big applause. We developed a format bringing progressives together, including Social Democrats. I'm from the Netherlands, where the Social Democrats are just finalizing a merger with the Greens. Progressive is the broad church which we think also Ukraine needs in order to build up a strong force. This meeting is a first one. We will continue. I would like now to come to a little ceremony. Before I call one-to-one the co-organizers on the podium, I would like to say a word about the declaration which is behind me. We allowed ourselves these 2 days to dream about Ukraine after the war and our goals. And I think this reflection is necessary. But this declaration stresses the fact that it's first things first. First, the necessary military and financial aid enabling Ukraine to bring an end to the war under the best possible conditions. After that, when the war comes to an end, Ukrainian progressives and Social Democrats should be ready to face elections and to try to be part of the next Rada. Our 25-strong delegation has made clear to you that you're not on your own. We will work with you. We will continue to support you. It was Bogdan's idea to come up with the first meeting. It's in the title. That means there will be more to follow. It's also our self-interest. We represent Europe's second political family. we need a strong basis in Ukraine to make a success also of the EU accession. So, I promised a little ceremony. I don't know whether it will be on the camera, but here, these are the organizations who are going to sign that declaration. And I'm going to start with the two representatives on the podium and invite them to sign. It is Katarina Barley, as Executive Vice President of the PES, followed by the Vice President of the S&D Group, Kathleen Van Brempt. There's Kathleen, please come up. Then somebody you might have seen before, it's called Bogdan Ferenc. He's co-founder of the S&D Platform. The Polish Amicus Europei Foundation with its director Irenaeus Bil. The director of the European Foundation for Democracy and Solidarity all the way from Amsterdam, Guido Koenig. Ian Woodward from the Olaf Palme Foundation, its Eastern European expert. The president of the PES Group in the Committee of the Regions, Luca Menicini. And then there's one colleague not with us. It's representing the CEE Gender Network, Daza Tsilovic. She will sign at a later stage. She could not make it, that's a pity. If you look at some of our panels, gender equality is something to work on. And Bogdan, a next meeting we're going to work with quota. You agree? Definitely. Excellent, excellent. So, thank you all. I would like to end with a quote I heard in my alert app. I was impressed. May the force be with you. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we can ask just a few words of all our guests to say about our summit, just like feedback, please.
So first of all, I just want to say thank you to everyone from SD Platform for hosting us. This has been an amazing experience. It is always touching to my heart to be here in Kyiv, a place that I've considered a second home for a long time. Thank you, Bogdan. Thank you, Tone, for everything you did to make this happen. I think you pointed it out correctly. This is the first opportunity for us to get together, and I hope this continues. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, thanks a lot to all of you being here. I think it was an amazing 2 days. It energizes me. I was a little bit scared. It's my first time in Kyiv, but it will not be my last time. And I think we also need to go around in Ukraine, not only stick to the capital, how important the capital is, but go around and conquer people's heart. As I said, I strongly believe that the vast majority of Ukrainian people want a fair Ukraine and a fair future for Ukraine. And their social democracy and progressive policies are key. So thank you very much. This is just a starting point.
Thank you very much for this experience. I will share with my colleagues, mayors, president of regions, in Committee of the Regions. I will share emotion, I will share experience, and of course we would like to reinforce our collaboration. Thank you very much, and Slava Ukraini.
Yes, dear friends, I go to Ukraine as often as I can, as I have opportunity, but I must admit this gathering is something unique, the level of emotions, positive energy, young people, young faces who look into the future. I think your audience, it embodies what is in your national anthem. Szczena wmerla Ukraina.
You've heard a lot from me already, but let me just end by saying I really love your country. I love being here in the capital of the free world, Kyiv. I love our friends and partners here. And the work is long from over, so I'm only more energized after these couple of days to do the work. Thank you so much for being here, and much respect to you, Bogdan. Good luck with everything here.
Thank you. Дуже дякуємо вам. Дякуємо нашим учасникам.
Thank you, and thanks to the participants. You are so great. This is Saturday, and we are making a photo. Are you tired now? Let's make it more vigorous.
Все? Увага, увага. Дивимося на камеру. Дякуємо вам. Дякую.
Thanks to us all, to you all, thanks to our online friends who've been with us for 2 days, and thanks to those people who prepared this event. This is SD platform team. They're so shy, Katerina, Dmitro, Inna, Maxim, online, offline. Thank you. Our team, technical support to the interpreters. Thanks for the great interpretation, videos, photos, quality content, everybody who supported us, catering team. These are people of labor, people of work. And Yuri, Katerina says that we need to thank you in particular. Thank you. To Friedrich, Egbert, Stiftung, Felix, Bogdan, thank you for this very good coordination. Thank you, and this is the end of the summit, Progressive Summit, Ukraine, EU. Thank you all, and we proceed with informal communication and